right, good evening, everybody. Welcome into Game Day Preview here. Cory Curtis and Julian Mininsohn talking college football for the next 30 minutes. Vanderbilt Commodores on a bye this week. The Tennessee Volunteers on a mini bye. They're playing New Mexico State.
Yeah.
And we will talk about both of those games coming up. But, Julian, we have reached that point in the season where people are on pins and needles for that college football playoff poll. You're an AP voter. And we like your vote, but this
means a little less right now.
These votes mean a little bit more. Take us through the top 25.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, Ohio State, they remain number 1. Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3. Those are the clear top 3.
Now, you say A&M's the 3rd, but in the Power Index...
Power Index, they're number 1. Indiana's still 2, and Ohio State is 3rd, and that's because of the strength of the schedule that A&M has played.
Because I would argue that Texas A&M should be 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue against you there. I mean, Marcel Reed and them have been really good. Of course, everyone's looking at Vanderbilt here in Nashville. They are 14th right now, still with a possibility of making a playoff, but they're going to have to win out, and they're on a bye this week. As you can see, Tennessee.
There are a lot of teams in that 25 who you would not believe still have a chance, but still have a chance.
Well, you're talking about the 3 SEC teams, too. Texas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, BYU, and Utah, still very much in the mix because they're ahead of
Florida, Pittsburgh.
We wrote Miami off.
Michigan.
After Carson
Southern
Beck.
Cal.
Carson Beck threw those picks that you had called. Remember, played himself out of the Heisman. They are, if you saw the bracket in the playoff right now, is the projected ACC winner. So, yeah, there's a lot that's going to change and flip-flop over these next couple weeks, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, so, and you saw Tennessee 23rd in there.
Yeah.
It would take a miracle to get Tennessee somehow back into this mix. Here's the bracket, okay? So the top 4 seeds all will get first-round byes, and it's going to be surprising if these 4 teams are still not somehow the top 4 seeds when we get there. Look, they're all going to probably end up playing each other in the championship games, but I don't think a Big Ten and an SEC championship game is going to be enough to knock them out, except for maybe Alabama, because it would be a second loss if they lost. So that remains to be seen. Could Georgia move ahead of them because they didn't play in the SEC championship game? Yeah,
that's going to be the big question, right? You see South Florida there 12th because they would be the 5th highest ranked conference champion.
They're a legit team,
and they'll be a tough team to get out. That Oregon Notre Dame, man, I wish we could see that because that's a great game. That is a physical team in Notre Dame versus a fast team in Oregon.
Well, Ole Miss, Texas. I mean, that's two. I mean, these are great first round matchups, and then Texas Tech, who just boat raced BYU right now, projected to play Miami.
I think it's just going to come down to that last at-large spot, I should say, is going to come down to Oklahoma, Texas, Vanderbilt. Just how can you deny the SEC with the schedule that they play? And it's all going to get figured out because Texas has probably the toughest schedule in the country remaining with A&M and Georgia on the list. Oklahoma still got Alabama, and Vanderbilt pretty favorable out of the 3 teams when they got Kentucky and then, of course, Tennessee on the road.
So you got, 3 Big Ten teams?
Yes.
And how many SEC teams? 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yes.
4, okay.
And then a Big 12 and ACC, and then the at-large Group of 5 conference.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk more about what needs to happen for Vanderbilt coming up a little bit later in the show, but we're going to focus on Tennessee now because the Volunteers have a game this weekend. They've got New Mexico State as they try to wash the taste of that Oklahoma loss out of their mouths. And this is a payday for New Mexico State, and I'm going to say good thing because they're a 40-point dog, and I think Tennessee's going to cover. You do not. I think Josh Heupel and the company hang 70 on the Aggies.
I could see them hanging 70. It's the defense I'm always worried about with Tennessee because every time they score 35, they end up giving up 32 or something like that. The big thing, New Mexico State, they have forced quite a few turnovers this year, 20 to be exact, which is pretty good for a team that's kind of near the middle to the bottom of their conference. However, I do think it's a get-right game for Tennessee, and I think they are steadily looking ahead to maybe facing Vanderbilt to play spoiler a little bit.
I know Tennessee fans are disappointed, but I think realistically, when you had what happened in the spring happen, they are where they probably should be. You raised expectations a little bit early when you found out Joey Aguilar could play, but we thought going into this season it was an 8-4, 9-3 football team. And right now, that's exactly what they look like. And by the way, and I know Tennessee fans don't want to hear this, and I'm sorry, if your down year is 8-4, 9-3, that's a pretty nice place to be.
Absolutely. I mean, all the national pundits had them at around 9-3 and 8-4. And yeah, you mentioned they figured out, oh my gosh, we are better with Joey Aguilar than we were with Nico Imaliava.
Yeah.
And so the goalpost kind of shifts there to saying, hey, maybe we can get back to the playoff. I'll tell you this, though. If they lose to Alabama, Georgia, and then maybe Vanderbilt all in 1 year, it doesn't sound as good. 8-4 maybe that's maybe a little skewed there, because I wouldn't want that if I'm a Tennessee fan.
All right, well, the Volunteers are coming off of a bye, and Josh Heupel addressed that issue earlier this week.
You mentioned competing. What do you want to see most out of your team coming out of this open date?
Yeah, I want to see growth. That's a lot of different things in a lot of different areas, but this is our next opportunity. Play hard, play smart for 60 minutes, play with discipline. That's alignment, assignment, eyes, keys, technique, and go execute defensively. Win the line of scrimmage and get off the field. Do a great job on the back end, matching things out offensively, line of scrimmage. Play with execution out on the perimeter, and special teams go win.
All right, well, that's what's up for Tennessee with head coach Josh Heupel trying to get his team together. I do know one of the things they focused on, especially after last season, where they felt like even though they went to the playoffs, they had some guys on the team who were not necessarily what they believed to be all-in team players. One of them is at UCLA now. And so one of the things Josh Heupel really worked on was camaraderie and having guys get to know each other, offensive players, defensive players, having, dinner with each other after practice. And I think he's to be commended. It's one of the things that kept this team together after Nico decided to leave. And I think it's what pulls them through after starting 6-3 and having the disappointment of basically being eliminated from the playoffs.
The quote that we heard after they decided not to pay Nico Imaliava the money was that no one is bigger than the program. Yeah. And that was kind of a risk to come out and take that stand, especially in today's age of college football, where you are trying to get every good player, as many as possible, considering the competition you have in the SEC. And I think that helped them out in the long run. And I think when you go to a game like New Mexico State or even Florida on the road, you're looking at a tough place to play in Gainesville. The togetherness and chemistry, that's where you're ultimately going to win a game as opposed to not win a game in a tough environment.
I think he already knew he had the locker room when he said that. I think the leadership on the team told him that Nico had to go when he didn't show up for practice during the spring. And so I don't think that was a big leap for him, but it was still a big statement. Here's the remaining schedule for Tennessee. They've got New Mexico State, and then, they've had a lot of weird stuff happen down in the swamp. Yeah. So they've got to go to Florida, and then they wrap up with the Vanderbilt Commodores at Neyland Stadium. How many times could you say the Tennessee can, I don't want to say save their season, but hang their season on knocking Vanderbilt possibly out of the playoffs?
It's kind of their Super Bowl for the rest of the way.
It's amazing how many teams beating Vanderbilt this year is a big deal. Because for Alabama and Texas, beating Vanderbilt this year was a big deal.
And Auburn, it would have been a big deal because Diego was 2-0 against those guys. Yeah. There's still a chance to have a really good end to the season here. Florida, you mentioned they've had some weird things happen over in Gainesville. It's been a while since they won over there, so that would be a big game. And then to get to a quality bowl game is still the goal. Colton Hood talked about it last week. He said, hey, playoffs or bust. I think that mentality is kind of thrown out the window. Of course, you need to or would like to go to the playoffs. However, you still want to get a postseason opportunity, and these bowl games still mean something when you're in them, and so that's certainly on the table for Tennessee.
And if you're a Tennessee fan, you've got 4 more games of Joey Aguilar, and to appreciate what he has done to your program. He also talked with the media earlier this week about what his expectations are coming out of the bye.
A lot of mental mistakes that we know we could fix, and took advantage of that during the bye week to watch film, dig deep, and find out who we are personally and as a team to go out there and ultimately finish the season and attack it week by week. There's a lot of pride on this team, so Saturday wasn't what we wanted, but we still got a lot to play for, and we're blessed to have 3 more games on our schedule, and 2 of those games are super exciting games, big rivalry games, super fun environment. So we're going to attack it week by week and face an opponent as we see them. to have a team that, you know, stays together and still unites as one after, you know, games like we've had and, you know, losses like we had, just little simple mistakes. And to play for a team and be on a team that, you know, everybody still fights and everybody still encourage each other and, you know, have each other back is something, you know, you don't see a lot. So.
Now, Julian, I expect Joey Aguilar to probably be done at halftime of this game. And I think a really serious question is, who plays the second half?
Yeah.
Because Jake Merklinger, I think all expectations are for him to transfer after this season. And so wouldn't it make more sense to let George McIntyre go out there and sling the ball around?
Yeah, and you want those guys. You're looking ahead after this year, especially if the playoffs, you know, aren't in the mix right now. You're looking ahead to who's going to be that foundational quarterback for you guys after Aguilar is gone.
Now, they've got a 5-star coming in,
yes,
but I think it is reasonable to think that George McIntyre could be their starter next season.
Absolutely, and you want to get him as many in-game reps as possible, and against live opponents and all of that. So I certainly think it's a good opportunity, and that is a battle within the battle to kind of watch on Saturday against New Mexico State is who is that first guy off the bench?
Yeah, well, like I said, if you, I mean, they have to know if Merklinger is going to transfer, right?
Probably by this point at the end of the year, yeah.
And so if he's going to transfer, there's a difference between being the backup and coming into a game where they need you and saying, hey, let's take a look and see what we got here. Or unless they just feel like in allegiance to him, he's earned these reps. These snaps. That could be. But I think they have to get a good look at George McIntyre. By the way, went to Brentwood Academy.
Yeah.
And his family historically, it's from Vanderbilt, which is bizarre. But I think George McIntyre is one of the things I'm most interested in seeing this weekend.
He was 6 of 7 for 52 yards against East Tennessee State. I can't even. I walked right into that one, man.
You did.
Oh, wow.
You could have just said 6 completions. All right, well, we'll see if he plays. By the way, so that game, you may want to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to watch the whole thing, we have football for you on News 2 this weekend.
Stacked every weekend.
It is another stacked lineup. Let's take a look and see what we've got coming up Saturday on News 2. 3 more games starting at 11 a.m. And then we've got, that's Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, and that is a huge game. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you are rooting hard for Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
In that football game. I think Notre Dame is upwards of a 14-point favorite in that game. But
that's game day there, too.
Game day in Pittsburgh. Yeah. It's a critical game. Did I hear that the Pittsburgh coach said he didn't care if he lost by 100 because it wasn't an ACC game? And yeah, okay, he said, I don't care if we lose 110-10 because he knows their only way into the playoffs is by winning the ACC.
So stay healthy.
So he basically, I don't care about the outcome of this game, which is an interesting tactic to take.
Yeah, because you'd still love a quality win on your resume. But he's right. You know, as we saw, Miami was the only ACC team in the bracket, and so that's probably the only way in.
And I think Notre Dame would love a 100-point victory.
Yeah, because one loss and they're done.
For their resume.
Yeah.
So that would be good. Then at 2:30, another game that if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you have a rooting interest in all 3 of these games, and we are going to talk about that in the next segment. You've got Oklahoma at Alabama. Oklahoma coming off of their nice win over Tennessee, but I mean, Alabama needs to win.
Alabama needs to win. And, you know, Oklahoma, this is basically an elimination game. Everyone is from here on out.
Yep.
They played well enough to beat Tennessee, but I think they're going to need more offensively from John Mateer and company to beat Alabama because Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer, that offense looks pretty darn good right now.
All right, well, Texas, it looks like they've kind of figured some stuff out a little bit. Is it enough to beat Georgia, which is in prime time right here on News 2?
I'm liking the Bulldogs still. And maybe that's a little bit of wishful thinking because I'd like to see Vanderbilt in the playoff. But I think this is going to be a lot closer than we thought it would maybe a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. You know, it's so much is on the 2 quarterbacks, Gunnar Stockton and Arch Manning, and how they play in this football game. But that's your lineup coming up on News 2. And I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, 6 ranked teams there.
All right. When we return on Game Day Preview, we're going to talk more about Vanderbilt, where they are in the college football playoff, and exactly what needs to happen to get them into that 12-team field because it is completely within the realm of possibility. That's next.
You're pretty good.
All right, welcome back to Game Day Preview. Cory Curtis and Julian Mininsohn. Julian watching some college basketball. Vanderbilt's up by double figures already. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Vanderbilt women, MTSU men, all in action tonight. We'll try to run all that down for you coming up tonight on News 2 at 10. The Vanderbilt Commodores have a week off, and really after a couple of tough weeks for their defense, I think it's a pretty good time for them.
Yeah, there's two things that stuck out to me after that Auburn game, which was crazy, by the way.
Yeah, you got to talk to Reese Witherspoon. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's become the hotbed for celebrities now to come.
Julian Mininsohn, Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, don't start that. The paparazzi will be all over it.
They're camped out of your apartment.
Two things stuck out to me. Number one, and we talked about this, Diego Pavia absolutely needs to be in New York.
For the Heisman, yes.
For the Heisman series. I'm not saying he's going to win.
He's not going to win.
He's not going to.
But he needs to be there.
But he needs to be there, not just from the stats alone, but from how much more he has to do for this team compared to what Simpson, Mendoza, Marcel Reed, those guys have to do for a much more talented team.
He is the only one over 3,000 yards combined, running and passing. He also is the only one where every snap the play runs through him. So every pass play, every run play starts with him as an option to run the football. They don't just take the snap under center and hand it off. That's never the way it works. You've always got to account for him on every play. And he has shown against Texas and against Auburn now that he can bring you back throwing the football. And I don't know if there's anybody thought that was really possible, but all I heard last week was about how good Auburn's defense was. And he threw for 377 yards.
377 yards, 112 rushing yards. And he runs not because he has to, but because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Like he's good at it. And 4 total touchdowns as well. So that's the first takeaway. Diego Pavia, really good, needs to be with other really good players in New York for the Heisman ceremony. The other thing, the defense. This is kind of coming at the perfect time, the bye is. They've given up 72 points over the last 2 games.
And this was an Auburn team that was struggling to score points.
Not good. You're coming in with your backup QB who
maybe should have been the starter.
Maybe should have been the starter and had one receiver, granted who is a first-round projected NFL wide receiver.
Yeah, he looked pretty good.
But one guy beating you the whole entire time. Clark Lee is going to need to figure that out because you got Tennessee in a couple weeks, and we talked about in the first half of the show their offense and how good it is. There's a possibility they could score over 50 points if you play like that. 2
things. Number one, we've been concerned all along about what speed on the outside might do against Vanderbilt. We knew they were good in the trenches. We've continued to pound that drum that offensively and defensively they are good in the trenches. It's the outside that concerns you, and that has been largely the problem for them. The other problem is they've given up so many points so quickly, it's gotten them out of their game, which is beating people into submission into the fourth quarter. And, when you're trying to catch up and you've got to throw the ball, yes, you're putting points on the board, but you're not breaking their will. Right. And that's what they were doing to start the season up front on the offensive and the defensive lines. They were just steadily punishing teams as went along. And you saw in the fourth quarter, they would just take over football games. And so the rest of the way, they've got to find a way to get some stops early and establish what they want to do offensively to keep these games from turning into track meets, because that's not where they want to be.
Auburn has a really good run defense, and Vanderbilt kind of had to abandon that run-first mentality, which is why you kind of saw Diego throwing it all over the field. The saying is run to win, pass to score, but they had to pass to win on Saturday, because that was the only way you were going to beat that kind of Auburn team. So teams that stop the run, teams like Vanderbilt, have given Vanderbilt issues. And we'll see, the hope is that it doesn't rear its ugly head by the end of the season.
Now, you were in Atlanta for SEC Media Days when Clark Lee talked about going to the college football playoff and that being the Commodores' goal, and everybody scoffed. And
they laughed.
They called him names, whatever. That's a joke. But he has not wavered from that, and they're 8-2, and they're in the mix. And he doesn't want to hear about bowl games. He wants to talk about one thing: the college football playoff.
We embrace it. I mean, not even embrace it. I mean, that's our talk. We own that because we've talked about it since January 7th. So I don't. That's something we embrace and we're striving for. And I said this to the team today in the hotel. I mean, that we're out of opportunities. Everything's at stake, and the mission's winning. So, if at some point we're dealt a blow, and we'll still be on mission. But until otherwise, we're aiming for those playoffs, and that's important to us. Right now, it's going to be have the best bye week we've ever had. Let's get freshened up and get rested. Then we'll shift our attention to Kentucky, and obviously you've got a two game stretch run here at the end to close it out. But yeah, we own those words.
Kentucky just boat raced the Florida Gators, so that is certainly not going to be an easy opportunity. Now, he's talking about the college football playoff. They don't play this weekend. We saw the Titans have a huge weekend last week by not playing.
Yeah.
They need to have a Titan-like weekend this weekend because these are all games that can help Vanderbilt in a huge way. They can go from outside the playoffs to in the playoffs this weekend without even playing. Go through these key games.
Yeah, if you're wondering as a Vanderbilt fan who you need to root for, it is Georgia to beat Texas. It is Pitt to beat Notre Dame. It is Bama to beat Oklahoma, and then it is Utah and BYU to both lose as well.
Yeah, you want TCU and Baylor to win.
Yeah, so because you want those teams, you need to get an at-large spot, so you want those teams with that extra loss so you could stack your resume against theirs and say, we have one less loss, we should be in not team A, B, or C.
And Texas, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma are critical here because it eliminates all three of them. All right?
Yeah.
It's a third loss for all three of them. It eliminates them. BYU and Utah are different because they're both sitting on one loss. The question is, who would you take, a two-loss BYU or a two-loss Vanderbilt? I think we know the answer to that question.
It's Vanderbilt because they play in the SEC. And you also need teams that are not pictured on here, like Missouri to continue winning. And LSU to continue winning because that will help your schedule at the end of the year if those teams are in the top 25 or even fringe top 25.
Because as you look at Vanderbilt's resume, they played South Carolina when they were number 11. They played LSU when they were number 10. They played Missouri. Was Missouri 15 or 18?
They were 18,
okay.
Yes.
So you had all those wins, and they all looked like good wins, and they are good wins. Unfortunately, now you're in the case where none of those teams are ranked. And all of those wins. Now people are looking at you saying, well, you haven't beaten a ranked team. When in fact they beat 3 teams ranked inside the top 15 when they played them.
And I have a stat for that. Coming into the season, the Doors had the second toughest schedule in the country, according to ESPN Analytics. If you look on their power index right now, their schedule as a whole is 21.
Yeah, so and that's still good.
And that's good.
But you need those teams you beat to win.
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about, LSU and Missouri, even South Carolina. These are the remaining games for the Vanderbilt Commodores. Kentucky, that one is at First Bank Stadium, which, by the way, I mean, you've been to the games.
It's unbelievable.
I never dreamed it. Okay, the last time I set foot in that stadium for a game, I said this building needs to be condemned. All right, and it's fixed up and it is full, and the environment. I mean, it's been full before, full of Georgia fans, full of Alabama fans, full of Tennessee fans. It's full of Vanderbilt fans, and it's great to see.
Yeah, Clark actually talked about that. Clark Lee, he was saying how against LSU, there was still a lot of purple and yellow in the crowd. And then against Auburn, there's a little less of the visiting fans in there. So it's getting better and better each week. And they got one more opportunity, senior day, essentially. Against,
I don't think Kentucky's bringing a lot of people.
Probably not. And it's going to be, and you have, again, we joked about Reese Witherspoon, Theo Vaughn being there. Of course, Jay Cutler, obviously an alum, played there. But when you have celebrities and big names like that come into your games, it's huge from a marketing standpoint and eyeballs on your program.
It's the place to be.
Yes,
you go, oh my gosh, they're going. I
want to play in front of those stars.
Yeah, well, and also, but for other fans to go to the game, saying, well, I mean, they're there. I guess I should be there too.
Yeah.
And winning matters. I will always say, winning absolutely matters. And regardless of how this thing finishes out, where it goes next year, without Diego Pavia is going to be absolutely, absolutely fascinating.
What do you say about the Titans too? And they're opening up a stadium. Oh, they need players to market. No, winning is going to market this team. That's what's going to bring fans into the new stadium. Absolutely.
And you need players to win. It's about players, not plays. But if you win, absolutely show up. Let's take a look at that News 2 lineup once again before we go here on Game Day Preview. It starts at 11 o'clock in the morning it's a non-conference game because Notre Dame not a part of the ACC. Notre Dame playing Pitt, and that's important because Pitt knows they can lose.
Yeah.
And I think that, you could say maybe they play freer. You could maybe say there's less pressure on them. All the pressure's on Notre Dame in this football game. But Notre Dame, since losing those 2 games early on last-second drives, has gotten really nothing but better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pitt, game day's there. I know the coach mentioned, he could lose by, 100?
100 points.
But you want a good showing when game day is going to be there.
Yeah, you don't want to lose by 100 with game day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not so good.
Again, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you would like Pitt to get
who
a
do you
win.
like in that game? Notre Dame's 12.5-point favorite.
I like Notre Dame.
Yeah, I like Notre Dame too. They've got something to play for. They got a great head coach, future head coach of the Titans, Marcus Freeman. So I expect Notre Dame to win that game and to pull away in the fourth quarter. Then you got Oklahoma, Alabama. Who do you like in that one?
I like Alabama. Oklahoma's kind of been up and down offensively. I'll go with the Crimson Tide, been more consistent. And at home.
Yeah, and they both have something to play for, without question. Because, right now Alabama's in a spot to have a first-round bye, and I think that does matter.
Absolutely.
And then in Georgia and Texas, does Texas have enough, do you think, to take down Georgia under the lights in Athens?
This is going to be tough, but the fact that it is in Athens, and I think Georgia's kind of hitting their stride, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
I just don't know. I
wouldn't bet on this game. I'll tell you that.
I wouldn't bet on this game either. But with the way Texas has been so inconsistent this year that I just have to stick with Georgia.
Do you trust Arch on the road in an environment like that yet?
No.
It's one thing to beat Florida like that.
I think that's important. He's got Gunner Stein. They lost at Florida.
Yeah.
And so, and Florida's not even any good.
Yeah.
So, and they struggled with Kentucky.
Yes.
Who's terrible.
Yes.
So, but again, they've kind of come out of it the last couple of weeks, so we'll see if they can continue it. All right, we'll be back next week for Game Day Preview and take a look one more time at Vanderbilt and Tennessee as they round out their season in the Southeastern Conference. For Julian Mininsohn, I'm Cory Curtis. See you then.